Good morning and welcome to BBC News. Now, there's been more tough rhetoric from the British government on Russia over its continued support for the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The Defence Secretary, Sir Michael Fallon, has sharply criticised the Kremlin, saying it was responsible for every civilian death in Syria last week. Meanwhile, the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson has pulled out of a planned visit to Moscow and is seeking support for a new move to end the conflict. With me is our political correspondent, Susanna Mendonça, here in the studio. So what has brought about this change, do we think, Susanna?
I think we're certainly hearing a tougher stance from Michael Fallon, and we understand that his comments are going to be echoed by what the Americans are going to be saying this week as well. And so this idea that certainly they see Russia as being complicit in the attacks that we saw in Syria last week. Now, the reason that Michael Fallon says that they're complicit is they're saying that they are by proxy responsible for those civilian deaths because they are supporting Bashar al-Assad. And so what Michael Fallon's attempting to do, I think, with these words and this tone is to bring some pressure to bear on Russia to try and get them to, I suppose, withdraw the kind of support that they've been giving to Bashar al-Assad thus far.
Now, Boris Johnson's pulled out of his visit, but the Americans are still going to Moscow.
Yeah.
Is it likely, and it's a difficult question to answer, but is it likely that Russia and President Putin in particular will listen to any of this?
Well, in terms of Boris Johnson cancelling his visit, they've described that as absurd and have basically said that it was just theatrics. So they certainly haven't taken that particularly seriously. Now, Boris Johnson, he says that the reason that he withdrew his planned trip to Russia was because the Americans are going, and so he wanted there to be a coordinated, I suppose, message to the Russians, and that would come from the Americans rather than from him going tomorrow, and that the situation had changed. Now, that's been seized upon by Boris Johnson's critics, the Liberal Democrats describing him as an American poodle because he's basically just handed the baton over to the Americans. But what we've had from Boris Johnson's team since then is an indication as to what he's doing over this weekend. He's going to be, we understand that he is talking to the different countries that are going to be attending the G7 summit on Tuesday in Italy, and he's trying to get them to have some kind of coordinated voice, I suppose, coordinated message for Russia. Certainly the whole rhetoric now is really moving towards trying to get Russia to withdraw its support for Bashar al-Assad. But as well as that, what we've heard from Michael Fallon in what he's written in the Sunday Times today is that he also is of the opinion that Bashar al-Assad cannot continue to be the leader in Syria. Now, that changes somewhat from some things that we've heard previously. Certainly back in January, Boris Johnson was talking about how Assad potentially could run in elections. Well, that seems to have moved away from that now. They want a future in which Syria does not have Assad as its leader.
OK, Susanna, for the moment, thank you very much. Thank you.